around for a long time. And one of the things that was really holding it back in the metagame was its really terrible Mew matchup.
Yeah.
And now that Mew's sort of taken a backseat, now we can have this big, chunky VMax attacker showing back up. A lot more VMax in the metagame now after V-Star sort of took over for a long time.
I'm really interested to see how this matchup will play out. Of course, Leafeon VMAX's attack deals more damage for each energy in your opponent's active Pokemon's retreat cost, and Kyurem VMAX does have a massive 3 retreat. Of course, that retreat cost will also be boosted by the Galar Mine Stadium that Israel Sosa is playing. And it does look like we are getting things started here, and Andrew's going to be kicking the game off, starting with the Kyurem V. Israel on the other side, starting the Lumineon. Never the best thing to start as your active.
When you have these support Pokemon, they always seem to come out right at the start, don't they, Chip?
When you don't want to see them.
But with the Kyurem getting set up with the Ultra Ball, just discarding a Choice Belt, going to look through the deck. Of course, players need to make sure they're always practicing, studying, looking through the deck, figuring out what's already in the prize cards. They sculpt their lines of play after that. It looks like Bidoof might be getting eyeballed here off the Ultra Ball. Very interesting to get that draw engine right into play.
Andrew's draw engine is very reliant on Bibarel. He's got 2-2 line here in the deck, so he really wants to establish a Bidoof quickly so that he can get that Bibarel online using those industrious incisors to continue to draw through the deck, finding all of his various combo pieces and trying to load up for an eventual massive attack with Kyurem VMAX.
I like that we have an alternative draw engine in the game, right, to kind of compete with the Inteleon engine. It's not weak to the same sorts of things. If you draw enough cards, it's almost like tutoring. Definitely makes a lot of sense. But right now, Kyurem V also is pretty deadly on its own, right? This is a rare sort of part of the game where the V Pokemon, the unevolved Pokemon, actually does have a couple good attacks. You can start swinging in early if need be. If you can get an easy K on this Lumineon V, you're already just jumping out so far ahead of your opponent by getting those early prizes. Even Training Court just being set up. Andrew focusing fully on the setup here, right? Normally you want to save your stadium to try to bump what your opponent is doing, but by getting the Training Court down, you know that the plan is already in motion.
Andrew, not getting a Palkia V into play, that's something you really love to do with this Kyurem deck. Find your Palkias, get them down so that you're able to easily accelerate energy on turn 2 with the Star Portal. That's not going to be an option here for Andrew. I did see, though, he is holding on to that Bibarel in the hand, so it makes a lot of sense why he valued getting Bidoof down right away.
Yeah, even with an Ultra Ball. You know, too, with the Ultra Ball, because you discard 2 cards, you're already thinning down, setting up for those industrious incisors, and maybe, you know, that next 4 or 5 cards off the top is exactly what Andrew's going to need to explode on this game. Israel, meanwhile, uses a quick ball, finds the Comfy, going to try to get this lost zone filled up with the flower selecting ability. Get to look at the top 2 cards of your deck, pick one to put in your hand, the other one goes to the lost zone. You want to get that set up as quickly as possible, get the Cramorants, get that threat online, get the Colress now. This is the perfect setup. There's been a big debate around, do you Comfy first, do you Colress first, but it looks like Colress just needs to find a way to switch this Lumineon out of the active.
Yeah, that's really what Israel would love to do. He can use an energy this turn to retreat this active Lumineon into the Comfy potentially. You don't really mind using that. Does actually have the escape rope in hand, though, so that'll work out nicely. And it sends this Bidoof up, forcing Andrew now to find a switching card in order to get this Kyurem back active on his next turn.
So now with the flower selecting, looks like a pretty tough choice. 3 cards now in the lost zone. And a scoop up net brings the Comfy back. And now Training Court as well. Now Andrew putting this in play, you see, trying to get it set up, actually gives Israel an out now to retreat the Lumineon, use the Comfy's flower selecting once again because it was scooped up and re-benched.
Yep, that's right.
That's 4 cards now in the lost zone. Cramorant now online.
Yeah, this is great. This is going to give Israel that option if he can find the Cramorant. And there it is in the hand from the flower selecting, as we do see that lost zone being moved over to the side now. 4 cards there. Cramorant, of course, able to freely attack with its Lost Provisions ability. If there are 4 or more cards in your Lost Zone, you can ignore all energy in this Pokemon's attack cost. And there we go, Israel busting out of the gate with a turn 1 KO.
Spit innocently. 110 damage doesn't seem like a lot, but it scoops up so many of these smaller single prize Pokemon. And now Andrew Gantler's a little bit spinning out because he was so reliant on getting the Bibarel online this turn. Can Irida make a miracle happen?
Gonna need some help here. This does find a water Pokemon and an item card. Radiant Greninja being eyed up right away. That's a good way to get some draw up and running. Andrew can pull off an attack this turn with the Kyurem VMax. Of course, its ability, Glaciated World, allowing you to discard the top card of your deck. And if it's an energy card, you can attach it to one of your Pokemon. So theoretically, if he can get his Oranguru into play with that Primate Wisdom ability, put an energy on top, get the Kyurem, Glaciated World, hit the energy, you could start swinging for 120 and take your first prize. The problem is your hand is just really weak after that really solid escape rope play from Israel turn 1.
The training cord is what really allowed that too. Great way to get that Luminium out of the active, get that extra retreat, extra use of the Comfy. Capacious Bucket as well with the Radiant Greninja, allowing us to use the Concealed Cards ability, discard the energy, and draw 2 more. Already, because of the Bibarel and now the Radiant Greninja, Andrew was already reliant on the next 4 or 5 cards off of the top. So this is really, this turn here, so much riding on it to stay in the game. When you're up against a single prizer deck like this that is, if need be, can kick back, rely on this Cramorant, just get some cheeky damage down before you get up and running. So much of the early work is done that once Leafeon does come through to start to bully the Kyurem with the Galar Mine, you're just going to be so far behind.
Now, Andrew did draw into the Kyurem VMax. He could go for the Blind Glaciated World, but he may think better of it and just go for the Rapid Freeze, which is exactly what he's doing, allowing you for 1 water energy to accelerate as many water energy cards from your hand to your Pokemon in play as you would like. And with 4 energy cards in the hand, Andrew can get all of those energies in play, set up the Greninja to start threatening multiple Comfies potentially, and also get this Kyurem ready to attack.
Ooh, yes, I love it. Just saying the Kyurem V has enough HP to buy 1 more turn, and I'm just going to set up a big threat potential. Israel responding now with the Colress's Experiment, getting even more cards in the Lost Zone.
Yeah, Israel needs 1 more card in the Lost Zone, and then he'll be at that magic 7 mark and will be able to start utilizing Mirage Gate. Now, this is a Leafeon VMax deck. He's also got the Leafeon V-Star, but one of Israel's other big attackers is the Regidrago, which he could theoretically have gotten powered up here. Doesn't look like his hand is strong enough to get to that other Mirage Gate option, so we're just going to be swinging with the Cramorant. Ooh, so a little bit of a weak turn from Israel, but does still lay some solid damage down.
Yeah, getting the damage, especially, again, the Kyurem VMax, that huge HP pool that this list is trying to adapt around. Getting that initial swing with the Cramorant is so huge. Once you have that sort of speedy, quick attack on turn 1, turn 2 that your opponent typically isn't expecting, you get that damage, and then the Cramorant immediately gets knocked out in response. But now this single Pokemon has gotten 2 good swings in.
And Andrew has nothing going in his hand. He chose to accelerate all of his energies last turn with the Rapid Freeze, leaving himself with no energy cards, so there's no option to use the Concealed Cards ability of Greninja now. He's stuck with a Choice Belt and a Bibarel, does get this Air Balloon onto the active, which will reduce the Kyurem's retreat cost, you know, prepping for the potential VMAX, and he does still get the KO here with Max Frost, but still just another weak turn from Andrew.
Yeah, I think that prize grabbed was a water energy, so can hopefully get access to the Concealed Cards next turn to try to dig his way out of this hole, but you can kind of see the tempo really getting away from Andrew here. Israel, meanwhile, able to promote the Comfy now after that knockout, get that 7th card into the Lost Zone.
Here we go.
And now Leafeon VMax is in play. This card is just trying to punish these heavy retreating Pokemon. 60 damage per each energy for the retreat cost in the Grass Knot. Attaching an energy for the turn, fire onto the Comfy so we can get the retreat here. And here comes Leafeon VMax up into the active.
There's that Choice Belt boosting the damage. Is there the Galar Mine? There it is. This is going to be enough for Israel to get this knockout even through the Air Balloon. It is going to be doing enough. There is still 3 in the retreat cost, 180 plus 30. Oh, it's not quite enough?
Ooh.
Oh, is he 10 short? I think he's actually 10 short.
So close,
Kyurem
Andrew.
VMax having 330 HP, doing 320 damage now. Look at how many dice are on that Kyurem VMax.
The air balloon preparing to counter this attack saves Andrew massively here. That's 3 prizes denied for Israel. This gives Andrew a chance to put some big damage onto this Leafeon VMax and get 3 prizes in response. Going to set up another Kyurem and goes for Rose to attach the energy from the hand instead.
Now, if you discard all 4 of these energies, that's going to be 240. Is going to be enough there, taking out that Leafeon.
And you can see how being forced into this line once again makes Andrew unable, to use that concealed cards to draw anything. Very reliant on the prize cards here coming down.
Yeah, 320 damage dealt by that Kyurem. That Rose coming in massively, allowing Andrew to get that KO. Leafeon only having 310 hit points. Israel fighting back into this game. Only needs to deal 10 damage to this active Kyurem to take it out. Colress finds a bunch of energy and Pokemon. That is pretty awkward, to be honest. You already have 1 Comfey in the Lost Zone. Are you just going to Lost Zone the other 2? Wow, so Israel only has this 1 Comfey in the active spot for the rest of this game.
Now that a lot of the Lost Zone has been filled up the way you want, the Flower Selecting is there just to kind of thin and look for the missing pieces. I like saving the energy here. You need a way to maintain your threat. We've got the Regidrago coming through. This is another attacker that if you're able to accelerate a lot of this grass energy too, can hit some big numbers.
I think its first attack just for 2 colorless does 30 though, which is really all Israel needs to do here. So we might just see, I think, 1 energy grabbed with the Mirage Gate gets accelerated.
Hammer in.
Yeah, Hammer in does deal enough to just get this knockout on the active as long as Israel has 1 more energy in hand, and there it is, sure enough. Hammer in taking a KO. And now these players are tied in their prize cards, 2-2, and Israel has Radiant Charizard waiting in his hand.
The early setup from Israel was so strong, but it seemed like Andrew was really able to look deeply into the future. The setup with the freeze to get all of that water energy accelerated down, predicting with the air balloon to just mitigate the lead that Israel had built up. And now after those prize cards are taken, we've got Crobat V now in the hand to draw some cards with Dark Asset. We finally have access to the concealed cards here with Radiant Greninja. The setup earlier now allows a threatening play of the Moonlight Shuriken. So everything is suddenly very massively swinging back into Andrew's favor, but we know the shell for Israel's list is the Lost Box and the Radiant Charizard.
Right.
This is sort of the situation you want to find yourself in.
And with Andrew benching this Origin form Palkia V, even if he is able to evolve up this Kyurem V into a VMAX, putting it out of range of a Charizard, Israel could still theoretically find the boss's orders to target now either this Palkia V or this Crobat to close out the game. So 6 cards drawn off of the Crobat, added to the hand, the full empty hand Dark Asset. Let's see what Andrew's able to get rolling.
Yeah, beautiful setup here. You've got your Radiant Greninja in the active. You've got the Palkia now and the Kyurem on the bench, threatening a full draw into the Irida to fill in the missing pieces now. Capacious Bucket maybe grabbed. Kyurem VMAX grabbed to count again. Always shutting off Israel's lines of play. Has the evolution now to stop this Radiant Charizard from getting that KO.
Kyurem VMAX brought out. Also gets an item card. Looks like it will be that bucket, like you mentioned. Just a couple of energies left in the deck. Does still have access to concealed cards this turn. But with so many energies in the discard pile, it's going to be pretty difficult to power up this Kyurem, which is exactly why we've seen Andrew go for the Palkia. He wants to use that Star Portal V-Star power next turn. So he's conceded that, okay, I'm not going to be able to close out the game this turn. That Lumineon might look like an easy way to close things out, but I just don't quite have the pieces to make it happen. I've got to try to set up. Hope my opponent doesn't quite have it. Doesn't matter if I bench the Crobat or the Palkia. I need to bench the Crobat to draw, so let's get them in play. If my opponent's got the Radiant Charizard, they've just got it. Nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, we need the Radiant Charizard, get the boss's orders in.
Glaciated World gets that extra energy accelerated. And we could see the Moonlight Shuriken. Feels bad to 2-hit KO a 1-prize Pokemon, but it'll make it very easy to clean up the game on this Lumineon, theoretically.
That way, you don't need to go for a specific Pokemon to get that knockout. The way we exactly saw with the Kyurem VMax, it got so heavily damaged that even the Hammer In from Regidrago was able to do it. And when you do drop some damage counters onto the Regidrago, that Dragon Energy also gets depowered.
That is a good
Makes
point.
it a little bit harder to find those knockouts as well.
Yeah, not often we see these attacks with the minus in their attack cost. 240 minus damage for each counter on the Regidrago. Now Israel drawing for turn can win the game this turn. He had the Charizard, he had the Fire Energy, but does he have a way to get this Regidrago out of the active, and does he have a boss's orders? That is the big question.
There's the Charizard, has the belt. Trying to get eyes on the hand here, Chip. Just a couple missing pieces. A couple of the Fire Energies were used earlier on to get the retreats on the Comfey and the Lumineon.
He does play 2 copies of Boss's Orders. I don't see one in his hand, though. He's got the Air Balloon, so that's a way to move the Regidrago out of the active. We know he's got that Comfey in hand. He's used a ton of scoop-up nets, though, so I don't think there's a real way for him to use Boss this turn. He could use Bird Keeper to get into the Comfey for turn, but if you use Bird Keeper, that means you can't play Boss's Orders.
All right, so we've got the Bird Keeper. We've got the Switch, going to keep drawing, looking for something here.
Does find the Quick Ball. I don't think Israel's going to be able to win the game this turn any longer.
This is another very devastating turn, very nervous when you have to throw the ball back over to your opponent's court and hope they can't
hope they don't have it, right? That Comfey can come down now. There's a Choice Belt. Doesn't really aid anything here. There's an Air Balloon. It looks like Israel just going with Combustion Blast, taking the KO. Does Andrew have a way to win the game? There is Lumineon V. Is there the Boss's Orders still remaining in the deck?
And has the Boss's Orders.
All he needs now is 2 energies or the Palkia V-Star in order to Star Portal, accelerate those energies into play, and Boss's Orders, bringing up that Lumineon V, will win Andrew game number 1. Don't know if Israel's hand could be any worse. Andrew is sitting on a couple of Battle VIP Pass to get his turn going. I assume Israel is going to be choosing to go first here. And he does start his Leafeon V, but his hand has 5 energy cards in it.
Oh, no. At the very least,
okay,
with the
top
energy.
Deck's the Comfey. Top deck's the Comfey. That's huge.
So we're online.
Oh, but sees Colress and Charizard off the Comfey. This is why these players hate having to go with the flower selecting. And yeah, Israel just says, I have to utilize my Colress next turn, otherwise I'm going to be doing nothing. Goodbye, Radiant Charizard. I don't get to use you at all this game.
Radiant Charizard out of the equation would be absolutely massive for Andrew. That is your comeback potential. So now Israel has to already begin shaping a new plan. Is going to be playing this game in a much more aggressive tempo to try to get an early lead. So that way you don't have to rely on the Charizard. With the Leafeon VMax in the prize cards, there is 2 in the list. We still have a shot at getting 1 more, however, to have that premium attacker for the list. And now back over to Andrew. We've got double battle VIP pass going to complete the setup. And now Israel has to climb this incredibly tall mountain.
Yeah, great start for Andrew. Israel ended up getting an okay turn, losing the Charizard, not great. Does have the Colress for next turn, and he was also able to use that Greening Cells ability of the Leafeon V to pull another energy card out of the deck. Such a strong ability on those turns when you can't attack anyway, right? You can't attack on your first turn going first, so might as well utilize that, get an extra energy card in play, so that way you can still threaten a Leafeon VMax next turn. Like you mentioned, that V-Star, that one of being in the prizes, definitely could be relevant. I feel like that's usually a pretty decent way to be aggressive with this deck. But having access to 1 VMax, which I do actually believe is in his hand, is still nice. And we could see a turn 2 KO because of that massive retreat cost of Kyurem V, which Andrew has started.
With all of the setup on Andrew's side, you know, if Leafeon VMax just comes through with the Galar Mine, just gets a couple big knockouts, especially versus Kyurem V or Kyurem VMax, the prize map does work out in Israel's favor. It's just a matter of executing, hoping that you can get that big lead in order to buy, you know, your way into a third game. You know, that the set isn't even over if Israel is able to win through this one.
Yeah, Andrew's hand is so good. He's got the Palkia V-Star ready to go. He's got Crobat in hand that he could use to keep drawing. Even has Quick Ball, and he could just discard this Crobat here and go grab Radiant Greninja or something like that to see a couple more cards. So he's got plenty of options here. Let's see if he wants to try to use the Crobat, or does he want to discard it and go get the Greninja out of the deck?
Yeah, you can see Andrew thinking along that exact same play. Might even take a wait-and-see approach. When you have a setup like this, you're maybe feeling pretty good. And Andrew can even, maybe try to fish for Bibarel. Once you've got all your attackers set up, I think that the Radiant Greninja Moonlit Shuriken thing is kind of nice, but at the end of the day, that was just a side play that Andrew was a little bit forced into.
Right, yeah, that concealed card's, though, such a great, consistent way to draw through the deck, and we will just see Rapid Freeze getting one extra energy down. And this is a big opening, actually, here for Israel Sosa. He needs to find the Galar Mine and get his Leafeon into the active. If he can do that, that VMax is already in the hand. If he can do that, he would be able to take a one-hit KO on this active Kyurem V, which would lose all of Andrew's energies, which we know he can, of course, re-accelerate with the Star Portal, but, I mean, it would just be a great lead for Israel.
Colress finds the Battle VIP pass, of course. Just throw that in the Lost Zone. You don't need it anymore. It's after have to make such a hard choice with the comfy turn one.
Right.
Get the easy choice here with the Colress.
Who does lose an Ordinary Rod. Never something you love to see go down to the discard pile.
Especially with the Charizard now out of the equation, you don't need the Ordinary Ride to keep cycling it the way you normally would with these Charizard box decks. Quick Ball now going to look through.
Can maybe grab another Comfy out. Actually eyes up the other Leafeon here. Hoping maybe to grab a Leafeon out of the prizes, I would imagine.
That might be the line that Israel's going for. We do have a couple Cramorants in the hand now.
Yeah.
So we have some free attackers. Now that we've got the 4 cards in the Lost Zone, you don't have to, rush headlong into getting your Lost Zone filled up to set up for Mirage Gates.
And Mirage Gate does hit the hand, sending a Grass Energy to the Lost Zone. Looks like it will most likely be a Cramorant play here, and that's a big missed opportunity, I think, for Israel. If he could have gotten the one-hit KO on this Kyurem, that would have been pretty solid. Andrew could have obviously responded, so maybe Israel's kind of okay with this and just holding out for the big VMax KO in the future to take 3 prize cards in one attack. As it stands, though, Spit Innocently will deal 110 damage to this Kyurem V.
Yeah, so just an easy sprinkle of damage, a little bit of a deja vu of what we saw in game number 1. But when you're against a Pokemon like this, it has a lot of HP. Any sort of early damage you can get in is perfectly acceptable. Here comes Origin Form Palkia V-Star now for Andrew, having access to eventually that Star Portal. There's really nothing going on in the discard pile, of course.
Yeah, had that response, if Israel had gotten the KO, but since he hasn't, now it'll be something he can have access to later. There is an Ultra Ball in the hand, as well as the Crobat. So a couple of options here for Andrew is actually going to start with the Primate Wisdom. So that takes away the option to Glaciated World this turn, but you really only need 1 energy. So that, I think, is totally fine. And what I think Andrew wants to do here is put that valuable resource back on top of the deck and then shuffle the deck here with this Ultra Ball so that way he can draw into the Melanie a little later on. And he's dumping the hand here for a Bibarel. Also has Crobat, so we'll see if he is holding off on using the Crobat still, or will he just fill the hand up with the Bibarel?
Yeah, after being denied the Bibarel in the first game, Andrew definitely still wants to get the Straw Engine online, especially with the Ultra Ball thinning the hand down so thoroughly. And with a good shuffle here, Andrew might just be confident, right, in the next few draws and getting this repeated value, right, with the Industrious and Scissor, where Crobat's just going to be one and done.
We'll see which one he goes for, though, off of this draw. Is it just 4 cards from the Incisors, or does he want the full 6 from the Crobat? Anytime you can bench the Crobat and just fill your hand up, it's pretty hard to pass it up. So I understand
this. 2 games
this.
in a row now.
Yep. Very good. Get 6 cards here in the hand. Looking for a Kyurem VMax still.
Filling up the bench, also powering up the Subspace Swell threat.
Does find the Ultra Ball, so we can see the VMax evolve the active. Also, Wash Energy is drawn. That will work as your last energy needed in order to start attacking with your Kyurem VMax.
Yep, so just now figuring out what are the weakest cards in the hand, what don't I need, what am I going to throw away with this Ultra Ball. And the Rose, once again, a really exciting tech, just to get that extra energy attachment, discarding the hand, setting up for the Bibarel.
Yeah, the synergy there is super strong if you can pull it off. It's a little difficult to commit to your 1 supporter for turn being something that discards your full hand, but the synergy just works out so nicely with Bibarel to fill that hand back up.
Yeah, Andrew really agonizing over what should be the discard. Has Luminion as well, I believe, but wants to hold on to it maybe to fish a boss's orders later.
Yeah. And Radiant Greninja feels really awkward to discard because the card is just so powerful as a draw source throughout your game. But with the full bench, it's going to be hard to really utilize it. If something gets knocked out, you could bench it, but then you're losing that bench spot for the potential Luminion, like you mentioned. So Andrew is going to choose to hold off. And he was actually thinking about evolving the benched Kyurem for a moment. So I wonder if he's got a basic energy in hand. Maybe we could see him retreat this active Kyurem V and then use Star Portal and attack with a fresh one, potentially. Or if he will maybe just use that second attack on Kyurem V, dealing 140 damage to knock out Cramorant.
It's a little bit more dangerous here for Andrew, actually, right? Because we don't have the air balloon like we did in game number 1 to mitigate some of that damage coming out of potential Leafeon.
Draws one off the Bibarel, finds a switch, not going to really help out too much here.
And you can see, Andrew, when you look at the board state, you see the Kyurem Vs, the Palkia, everything is set up for Andrew, but because Israel's deck is built to just do these massive bursts of damage and threaten with the Leafeon VMax, Andrew giving a lot of respect to Israel and agonizing over these individual plays. If you promote the wrong Pokemon, if you evolve the wrong Pokemon or attack with the wrong thing, you can open yourself up to a devastating counter attack from Israel.
So really interesting play from Andrew, using that wash energy on the Kyurem, retreating it to the bench, and then using the V-Star power of the Palkia, the Star Portal, to throw 2 energies onto the active. Of course, you cannot get the wash energy, and this will get Andrew a KO, and it also puts the Palkia in the active spot, which cannot be as easily KO'd since it doesn't have damage like that Kyurem V did.
Only now, 2 retreat cost as well.
Yep.
Instead of 3. So now here comes the flower selecting.
Yeah, Israel actually cannot get to the one-hit KO on this Palkia unless he was able to combine it with Choice Belt and Galarian Zigzagoon. He would need both of those things in order to one-hit KO Origin Form Palkia V-Star, in addition to a Galar Mine, so it's quite a lot to hit. And I don't think he's even going for that play. It looks like we're just going to commit to the Cramorant as an attacker again, soften this up, and this is setting things up for Israel down the road, but it is so slow of a play compared to how solid Andrew's setup is in this game here compared to the last one.
Exactly, Chip. We kind of speculated at the start that Israel would want to be a little bit more aggressive, perhaps a bit more reckless to get a bigger lead, but you can see that he's adopting a much more defensive approach just because of how strong and solid Andrew's foundation truly is, just waiting and threatening with the Leafeon V.
And Boss's orders can target down the low HP Leafeon V, 200 hit points. Pretty easy for this Palkia to deal with the subspace swell. Does use Primate Wisdom, finds the Irida, which will be great for the next turn. And this is a huge lead here for Andrew.
Once you get the 3 prizes down, you can see with the Origin Form Palkia set up, getting 3 prizes immediately, who knows if the Kyurem VMax is even going to need to be brought down as a liability here. It'll be the final knockout, right, just to deny any chance of Israel to take those 3 prizes.
And smart decision as well from Andrew to target the Leafeon with the grass energy as opposed to the one with the fire energy, because the grass knot attack of Leafeon VMax does need 1 grass. Ooh, but by taking that prize, Andrew now having 3 prizes, Israel is able to play the Roxanne. So if there is a way for Israel to fight back in this game, it is definitely going to be through this card.
A lot of players have said Roxanne maybe isn't real. Andrew already adapting to this situation as well with the Bibarel.
Right.
This is one of the Bibarel was already kind of on the rise as a way to get around, Marnie, Roxanne. You weren't getting as bullied with, the Jolteon memory capsule stuff, shutting off the Inteleon engine. And now when you go back down to 2, Bibarel can draw you back up to 5. So overall, this is, I think, more than anything, Israel trying to do a minimum of disruption, fill the hand back up, and try to get some extra attackers down in play. Here comes Regidrago, and now the KO with the Cramorant.
Very nice. By using the Choice Belt on the previous turn, that boosted the damage to 140. 140 2 times is 280, so Israel may be preparing for the potential of Andrew to go for a Boss's Orders play.
We know that that Radiant Charizard is out of the equation, so Israel is pivoting very, very hard, relying on this Cramorant. It's putting in tons of work, and if we can get another Ordinary Rod, maybe we just start recycling these and use them as like a baby Charizard. Wait, no, actually,
Is there only
my
the
mistake.
one?
There is only the one, and that was sent to the Lost Zone.
Wow. And that is devastating because that's a way for Israel to get energies back into the deck from the discard pile and combo that with the Mirage Gate. So going to be a little more awkward here for him to deal with. Now, Andrew did avoid evolving one of these Kyurem VMaxes, which I think at the time his thought process was, I want to prevent the option of Israel having a crazy turn by going boss's orders, Galar mine, knock out my VMax in play. But that did make him susceptible to this Roxanne. Now he's able to draw out of it with the Bibarel, but he needs to find more. He needs to find the Kyurem V Max. He needs to get those energy cards in order to start attacking. He was able to get the energies, but I don't know if I see that V Max just yet.
Primate Wisdom going to look at one more card, and you can kind of see how everything is crumbling now, it seems, for Andrew.
A Rapid Freeze.
Rapid Freeze. He had enough time in the first game in order to pull this off, right? The units, the Pokemon are still absolute units, lots of HP, able to survive one strike from the Cramorant.
Yeah.
And so taking a sort of off turn to reload, prep your next couple of attacks to take these final prizes is now the play for Andrew. Meanwhile, Israel opening up with the Colress's Experiment, digging through the deck even more. Tons of resources now to work with.
Finally hitting that mark to be able to play the Mirage Gate. And if he has a Grass and Fire energy still in the deck, we could see the Regidrago potentially come up and attack into this active Kyurem V and take a 2-prize knockout. Has Israel found his path back into this game? It was looking so bleak for him, but he somehow found a route to potentially get himself the victory.
I love it. This deck has found the just high concentration of very solid single prize attackers. You can take down big threats, take a lot of prizes, has the scoop up now.
There we go.
All the comfies already kind of did their job. They're on the bench, they're retired. Now all of these scoop up cards and switch cards can be used to keep the agility going for Israel. Gets a big knockout with Dragon Energy and is now pulling ahead in the prizes.
And Andrew said, you know, that Roxanne was pretty painful when you hit me with it. Now have a taste of your own medicine. Israel now taking those 2 prizes, does get hit with the Roxanne, so now he will only have 2 cards to work with. Andrew will draw a full 6 off of this. Andrew did theoretically have a chance to win this turn if he was able to get a bunch of energies on a Kyurem VMax and boss's orders KO the Leafeon, but obviously that did not happen as Roxanne has been played. So he's going to have to be playing the slow game once again and probably try to set up for a big boss's orders one-hit KO on the Leafeon in order to close this one out.
Yeah, and this Kyurem V damaged,
Yes.
worth 2 prizes.
Yes.
Israel's going to try to snipe this down. 2 cards in hand. Birdkeeper was already used. 2 Colress already used. Going to have a really hard time to find, you know, some out from this position, especially if Andrew can sprinkle a little bit of damage on this Regidrago, take some of the sting out of that Dragon Energy attack.
Lost Vacuum will remove the Choice Belt from play. Does have to discard a card from hand, though. Yeah, has to discard a card, or Lost Zone a card, excuse me, from hand. So 2 going into the Lost Zone there for Andrew. Just trying to thin the hand out in order to draw cards with the Bibarel, hoping to set things up. Would love to get an energy, which he can now do through the training court. Let's see off of these 3 if he's able to get some help.
That Luminion V still lurking as well. It was shuffled back in.
Yep, that's right. That would be a great way for him to close out the game on the next turn. He actually does find the boss's orders, but I don't see the Kyurem VMax just yet. See an energy card in hand as well. A Rangaroo Primate Wisdom can see one more. It is an Irida. Training Court now brings one back from the discard, can attach for turn.
And you can see the Kyurem V is Andrew's last hope and also the biggest liability here. Has to come through, swing to get these 2 prizes with enough energy in play, but is also so susceptible to getting knocked out.
And I think Andrew's kind of burnt out here, doesn't really have much else to work with. Will likely just need to pass it to Israel. And now the big question becomes, what did these 2 cards yield for Israel? Quick Ball is a good start if that Luminion is in the deck, which I think is it not? No Luminion here. He started it in game 1. It looks like it's not there right now. Does find the Galarian Zigzagoon though. And I think, it looks like, ooh, did Israel just concede, or is Andrew conceding here? One of these players decided to scoop it up. I don't know if it means that Andrew won the game. Yeah, because Israel just grabbed the Galarian Zigzagoon. It does look like these players are shuffling up, though. Are we going here to a game 3?
This whole set so far has just been a story of you can't really tell the outcome of a game based on the opening.
That's a lot of energies there in the prizes for Andrew. Israel has once again prized the Leafeon V-Star, so unlikely that we'll see it still. But, I think, looks like when Andrew drew his card for turn, the top card of his deck flipped over.
I did see that, yeah. But I think
he's going right back in with the Battle VIP pass. But yeah, it did. Whenever he drew his hand or his card for turn, it did flip the top card of the deck. So it got revealed to both players. It was a choice belt, but is playing the Battle VIP pass right away. It looks like things are just going to continue on here.
Okay. Yeah. Fortunately, didn't seem to be too big of a effect on the overall game, right? So we're just getting started.
And Battle VIP pass, the best way to start a game of the Pokemon TCG right now. You can only play it on your first turn, but it is so powerful, getting you 2 basic Pokemon from your deck and putting them onto the bench. And if he's got some water energies, we could see Radiant Greninja right away.
And now with the Battle VIP pass showing up so early, you know, it means that the Radiant Greninja getting set up is a much more attractive option. The more turns that this is in play, the more turns you can use that concealed cards. And now Andrew hopefully won't come up empty when all the chips are down at the end of this game number 3.
So did get confirmation that there was a 2 prize card penalty given for the reveal of that top card. You know, it was accidental, but information was gained as soon as a card gets revealed, you know. So that is by the books, the way that the penalty should be assessed. So Israel will need to take 2 less prize cards in order to win this game.
Andrew, however, is in a position to completely dominate this game. We'll see if that penalty even matters. A little bit of again, just brushing of the deck, a little bit of wind, some suction. Who knows what's going on there, Chip?
New sleeves getting stuck together. It happens.
But a lot of players have been in this position before. You know, you come up empty in the early turns. Just pretend that Israel got a couple cheeky hits with Cramorant. It's all fine, right? We got, especially when you've got the Radiant Greninja, you've got the Kyurem V in the active. I think that Andrew still has a very massive chance to run away with this game, especially with the Bidoof as well.
Yeah, this hand is looking solid.
And this is for the 3rd time, but Crobat not drawing 6 cards, but still getting 5 is still so massive here.
Filling up a bit here. Does have the Kyurem VMax in hand, ready for the next turn potentially. Did also get down that Bidoof. We've seen how vital Bibarel can be to Andrew's strategy.
Especially for trying to get around that Roxanne. We know that Israel's going to be relying on that very heavily.
No energy, though, on Andrew's side. Just a pass.
Yeah, 3 in the prize is not what you want to see. Not only do you miss your attachment, you also miss drawing extra cards with the concealed cards. So
Israel does start the turn with the Colress's Experiment, having to decide what 2 cards to send to the Lost Zone. Looks like a Drapion and a Regidrago are the choices.
And then we've got Flower selecting. Oh, both really strong options. Decides to keep the Choice Belt. That Choice Belt's so strong, right? We saw in the second game, you put that on a Cramorant, you're able to get that 2-hit knockout onto the Origin Form Palkia V.
And Scoop Up Net picks up this Comfy. Now another Comfy comes up, uses the Flower Selecting. We see the Cramorant off the Flower Selecting, so that'll be an easy choice to be able to spit innocently this turn, deal 110 damage, or get some damage in play. If Israel could find an Escape Rope here, I wonder what Andrew would even send up. You just let the Palkia take a hit, maybe? You definitely don't want to lose the Bidoof like you did in Game 1.
So consistent at getting the 4 cards in the Lost Zone. The Cramorant is a real threat.
And Andrew's faced with this choice now. Andrew faced with this tough choice now, deciding what to send up. Can't lose the Bidoof, and it looks like it will just be Palkia to take a hit. Greninja can also take a hit, though. Greninja having 130 hit points.
Okay, Greninja going to take the hit. Makes a lot of sense.
Israel could clean this up with a couple of Galarian Zigzagoon later on, but that would involve him using a Scoop Up Net to do that. So 110 damage applied. Andrew is not playing the Scoop Up Net, so this damage will stick around in play. No way to clear that out of here.
But now Radiant Greninja is in the active. Do we have some water energy here, Andrew? Something.
An Irida to get a bucket, maybe? Like, just needs some help here.
All right, so that's the Kyurem VMax. I'm trying to zoom in on this hand right now.
Just
zoom
a
in
pass.
enhance.
He just passes. Andrew has nothing to work with. No supporters, no energy cards, no other Pokemon to put down. Just a pass over to Israel. And if Israel wasn't already ahead by getting that prize card penalty awarded, this is going to put him very far ahead if he can find ways to continue to get set up.
This has been the theme of this entire best of three, is Andrew getting a massive foundational setup in the opening turns and not being able to convert. Israel finding the cracks in the armor and blossoming up with these Cramorants and finding these knockouts. Radiant Greninja goes down. One prize to Israel.
Oh, and one turn a little later than he would have liked it. Andrew does finally find an Irida. Now, this can bail him out still here. He can start attacking with a Palkia, theoretically. He just needs to way to get some energies down in the discard pile, use that Star Portal V-Star power. Bucket's a great way to do that, of course. He could also theoretically find Ultra Ball off of this to get the Bibarel up and running, but his hand is so big right now. Might be hard to thin it down.
Yeah, the hand has a lot of strong cards in it, but just without the energy, there's nothing there to convert. And you can see Andrew already figuring out what are the bad cards in my hand, what can I afford to do without. Andrew consistently has been forced to make these really tough decisions. Typically, you leave that to the Lost Zone deck to have to make these tough choices, but Andrew having to get rid of Radiant Greninja or decide to bench this or that, it's really heartbreaking.
He does have several playable cards in his hand. Looks like there's the Kyurem VMax that he can evolve. He also has an extra one to discard. Ice Cube can go down. It's a decent tech for the Reggies running around. It's also a decent tech against anything like Blissey Miltank, something like that, but not really useful in this matchup, so pretty free for that to hit the discard pile.
Yeah, just going to get rid of that, you know. Especially with Israel closing in on the end of the game, if you send up something like an Ice Cube, it's very easy for them to pivot around it. But Bibarel is found, as you said, Chip. Going to try to thin down this hand just a little bit more and draw. We need, and the funny thing too is the water energy slowing down the attack, but it also means that you can't just use them as discard fodder for the concealed cards or the quick balls and ultra balls to set up for Star Portal. Everything is just missing, right? This water deck is running dry.
It really is. It's a tough spot right now. There's a Kyurem V to put down, the VMAX. So we can play this hand out pretty decently on Andrew's side. Also has Air Balloon. That is good on the Kyurems in this matchup, so you can reduce that retreat cost, of course.
Yep, decides to go for it.
Does he want to evolve is the question. We saw in game 1 and 2, Andrew was holding off on evolving a lot of the time.
There is no Leafeon down to threaten, so maybe the Kyurem can come through. It's just that with 3 prizes left for Israel, having that 3 prize Pokemon in play is just a massive liability if something wild comes together for his opponent.
So Andrew tried to play Boss, but of course did already play Irida this turn. Cannot play that card. And he does Bibarel for 2, finds a water energy finally, but it's just 1 water, and there's no way to discard any other waters, so no Star Portal. It looks like an attach and most likely a pass incoming from Andrew.
Tragic, tragic. We can use Rule the Region here.
Yeah, not even though, because it's evolved.
That's right, yeah, it evolved, yeah.
Doesn't even quite work, just literally a pass, and this game has just, everything has gone wrong for Andrew after that turn 1 of game number 2. Turn 1, game 2, everything was perfect. The double VIP pass, you got set up, your opponent really hadn't done very much, but things just started to go downhill after that Roxanne, and then now here in game 3, you have an unfortunate flip of a card from the deck, get a 2 prize penalty, and then now you just can't even find a way to pull together attacks.
And when we contrast that with what Israel's got going over here, the Cramorants have been doing their job for this list, just throwing around some chip damage, throwing around some damage counters, softening up these targets to be knocked out later, come back around, take another lap, and collect those prizes on a later turn.
Yeah, Israel didn't even do much on his turn either.
There's really nothing going on for Israel. Again, no Leafeons threatening, no Reggie Dragos to threaten. Only 5 cards in the Lost Zone. The Comfies have kind of run dry as well by putting things in the Lost Zone, so no Mirage Gate threat as of yet.
Andrew just needing to thin this hand down so he can draw with the Bibarel. Boss's orders finding the Comfy. Would love to just see, at minimum, an energy card here so that he can find a way to attack. Does he hit an energy? Did he whiff an energy?
Yeah, couldn't even use the Melanie because there's no water energy in
Right.
the discard pile. Has to go for the Boston to bring up the Comfy. Trying to kind of punish and slow down this Lost Zone generation.
All right, are we in blind glaciated world territory? Is Andrew just going to, without stacking a card?
Oh!
No, he will just pass over to Israel. No glaciated worlds here. And Israel gets to pull off another flower selecting, sending another card to the Lost Zone. Up to that 6 now, just needing one more in the Lost Zone in order to start using the Mirage Gates.
Yep, finds the Lumineon off of the flower selecting. Now we can get our next Colress's experiment. So this is going to put the final little piece of the puzzle into the Lost Zone, get the Mirage Gate online. But does Israel even have an attacker in hand to really make use of the Mirage Gate?
He's got a quick ball, so as long as there is a Reggie Drago still in the deck, we do know one got Lost Zoned. I actually think one is prized this game, right?
That is correct.
And he does only play 2 copies of the card, so I think his only attacking option really is the Cramorant, and that's not going to be doing enough to get a KO here onto the Palkia.
The game is served to Israel on a platter, and he needs to reach out and grab it, but is struggling to actually put a threat in play.
And
1 minute left in the round.
Yeah.
Will this incredibly wild confluence of factors result in a tie, even though the forces of nature are trying their very best to make this one conclude?
Kind of an awkward one. 2 energies and 2 Colress, but is able to just keep on 1 Colress and sends another one to the Lost Zone here. So now able to use Mirage Gate by
12
having
cards. I was going to say 12 cards in the Lost Zone.
8 cards now in the Lost Zone. But with only less than a minute remaining, if Israel does not get a... he needs to attack and finish his turn here pretty quickly. Otherwise, he would be turn 0. It's going to be close.
And again, the belt missing from this equation. We aren't getting a 2-turn knockout on the Palkia V-Star either.
Okay. So now that Israel has attacked, now it is over to Andrew. So time will be called most likely during Andrew's turn here, which will make him turn 0.
But what if he just whiffs on the energy and immediately doesn't do anything?
So Israel would be able to have 2 turns available to him to close the game out, which is what he needs. He only needs to take 3 more prize cards, so he needed this extra turn to just get a little extra damage in play. He can now KO this Palkia pretty easily to close out the game, as we do see time is ticking down here. Switch will just send up this Kyurem, putting the highest HP Pokemon in the active spot. It is pretty tough for Israel to get to the KO on this Pokemon. He'd need to find the Lost Vacuum and the Galar Mine and the VMax and another energy. So it's a lot to hit, but he has a lot of cards in hand. 1 card over on Andrew's side now. Still, he does finally find an energy. It is the Wash energy, though.
All right. Wash energy attach and then retreat because of the air balloon.
And just send up this Palkia. Can't even utilize Training Court because Wash energy is a special energy. Blind Glaciated World, maybe? I think he's got to go for it. I think he should have gone for it last turn, to be honest. But
nope, just a pass.
Just a pass. And now Israel should be turn 1 of time. Colress's experiment can see him a bunch of cards. He's already got this knockout lined up on the active, and he just needs to find a way to take 1 prize card on turn 3 of time.
Yeah, we should be pretty easy to do. I say that, but I'm absolutely not sure about that chip. The Lumineon V was already used,
that's right.
And that's your way to sort of fish for that final boss's orders when you need it.
So Andrew was turn 0, Israel's turn 1, then Andrew will be turn 2, Israel turn 3. So he needs to take a knockout on both of these last 2 turns as time has expired. Otherwise, this match would end in a tie. And if I'm Israel, I'm just going to try to thin out as many cards as possible from my hand and make sure that my opponent can't get a Lucky Roxanne play off and try to force a tie out of this situation.
So there's the attachment onto the Leafeon V.
Looks like a little discussion going on between the players, but Israel just getting that energy down. He does have so many cards in hand. He already has the VMax. Maybe is going to hold off on putting that in play, as makes a little bit of a target for Andrew. But honestly, at this point, I mean, Andrew has 1 more turn left. He only gets turn 2 of time. So
right, and
does
there's
it
no
even matter?
energy really in the discard pile or in play at all. The threat of Melody or Star Portal, it's not really a lot even coming through to threaten.
Yeah, just thin as much as possible. The main way Israel loses this game is through Roxanne and getting a little unlucky. So he's playing around that as much as he can. And he already, of course, has the knockout lined up on this active with 220 damage already sitting there on the Origin form Palkia V-Star.
The Cramorants, again, just doing so much work over the course of this set. Charizard has always been like the shining star of these sorts of lists, but now the Cramorant just with that free attack immediately, but finds the energy.
Finally finds an energy, but it's probably just going to be too late. And here comes the Roxanne. This is Andrew's hope here. He can no longer win this game. He just has to hope that he doesn't lose, right? That Israel on turn 3 isn't able to take that last prize card needed. He has taken 3 prize cards this game, so only needs to take 1 more to close things out.
And once that happens, you know, Israel will be taking this best of 3. When we looked at this matchup, we knew that, you know, the Leafeon VMax was trying to target the Kyurem, but even with having that edge in the matchup, this has been pretty evenly matched. Both players having similar amounts of awkwardness, really struggling to get any sort of purely dominant position where you see sometimes in the TCG where one player gets their big attacker down and just wails on the opponent until they just get their prizes, but both players are just circling the drain, looking for resources, trying to find a way to convert their positions.
Andrew plays the Lost Vacuum, can remove the Choice Belt potentially from the Leafeon, maybe getting rid of Air Balloon on the Comfy to take away one of Israel's pivot options. Looks like that will be what it is.
Yeah, and that Air Balloon does go to the Lost Zone.
Yep.
And now Bibarel drawing 1 card.
Hoping to find something here. Don't think it has quite worked out, though. Just a pass. Israel needing to find a way to get the KO here. Can do it a few different ways. If he can find Boss's Orders plus Galarian Zigzagoon, he can take out the Bibarel with the Cramorant.
Okay.
If he can get this Leafeon into the active, which he can do reasonably through the scoop-up nets. Looks like he's sending up Comfy, so he needs to look a little bit deeper. He needs to find the Lost Vacuum and a Galar Mine. If he can find Lost Vacuum and Galar Mine, he would be dealing 330 damage, which is enough to KO the Kyurem VMax in the active.
He's peeking at these cards like he's playing poker.
Just 2 cards to the hand, or
another
to see off the
Draco.
flower selecting.
There's the attach and the retreat. Leafeon VMax hits the active spot. There's the
there
Galar Mine,
vacuum,
but do we
though?
have a vacuum chip?
It doesn't look like it. Cramorant, Leafeon, and an energy. Israel just 1 card short of getting the win. So this match will end in a tie.